Every story holds a spark of the human spirit. It's time to really let that light shine. This is Conjuring the Human Spirit, hosted by Sean McGuire Meeks, a space for honest conversations, deep connection, and the shared journey of being fully alive. This season, Sean also welcomes guests who open up about their own transformations and experiences, reminding us all what it means to heal, grow, and thrive, one story at a time. You're invited. Let's begin.
Okay, in this episode, we continue to retrace the ripples of love. We're going again from your mother's influence of her love to the love of me as a gay guy as your son. And in this episode, we're going to talk about now you have a grandson who's trans. So we're going to get into it. But first, everyone take an intentional breath with me in and out. Let's begin. So if you hadn't tuned into last week's episode, my dad and I were talking about how we built our relationship and how we met and how love, kind of the ripple of his mother's love, brought him to me and me to him, and how grateful we are for it. So check that out. And if you listened to a couple episodes ago, then you heard a compelling conversation I had with a young man named Max.
Magic Max.
Excuse me, Magic Max. So tell me about Magic Max, and how did Magic Max come into your life, Dad?
Well, we'll get that straight, because he said on there that I was his third cousin 3 times removed. I'm his first cousin 3 times removed. I didn't make up this terminology, son. It's just it's the way it's described. So his great-grandmother, and I were first cousins. She was 19 years older than I am and died a few years ago. And we'd gotten to be close over the last 15 years or so of her life. We hadn't really been around each other, even though she was in Live Oak. I was in Lake City when I was growing up, only 20 miles apart.
Okay, but a world away.
Well, it turned out to be that way.
Yeah.
Her dad and my mom were brother and sister, and I was around him a little bit. I always thought he was a complete nut.
Who?
And, her dad, my uncle.
Okay.
And so after my mom had died, I'd sometimes go through Live Oak, and I knew that she and her husband owned a funeral home there, and I thought, well, she's probably as crazy as her dad was, so I'm not fooling with her. Anyway, I was wrong. We eventually met each other again, probably 20 years ago now, and really got to be close. And so then that opened up what I call my Live Oak family, which ultimately included Mia. Then I'd known her from the time she was born. I wasn't around her that much.
So we're talking about Max.
We're talking about Max.
Max, but 20 years ago, you had a relationship with your second cousin twice removed?
No, my first cousin.
Excuse me.
My first cousin was his great-grandmother, but she was 19 years older than I am.
Okay, but you got a relationship with her again 20 years ago.
Yes, I didn't have it to begin with because she was so much older.
Okay.
She was up and gone, and I'd never really met her to mount anything.
And that opened up your Live Oak family, as you
Yeah.
said. And then, so Mia hadn't been born yet then 20 years, because Mia's 19.
She's 20. Max is now 20.
Max is 20.
Max is 20.
So right around that time, Mia was born.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Right, that's interesting. And so you saw Max then when Max was when Max was an infant.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how often did you get together with Max when Max was growing up? And Max was Mia, so brought into the world as a girl.
As a girl.
And named Mia.
Right. Not super often, because I'd get over to see my cousin, his great-grandmother, every so often, maybe half a dozen times a year, maybe. And sometimes we'd go visit other family members, and sometimes we wouldn't. So it wasn't as if I was seeing Mia all that often, but I certainly saw Mia periodically during the course of the years.
Yeah, did you have any relationship with Mia at all, or
pretty modest, I would say.
Modest?
Yeah.
So I remember, I think we were walking and talking, or maybe it was even on the phone. I don't remember. We walk and talk a lot.
Yeah, like to do that.
And you were telling me about someone in your family that was you had learned something about Mia transitioning to Max. Can you tell me
Yeah.
about that story?
Well, Max's uncle told me, and then his sister, not knowing his older sister, lives in Jacksonville, and so Joanne and I have developed a relationship with her, with Brianna, or Bree as she may be called, or Cheese by some people.
Okay, okay.
And so she tells us, and I probably had already told Joanne, and I was like, well, okay. And I think Brianna was really concerned about telling us because I suppose she thought we might put the rejection up.
Rejection up, because
Yeah.
that's so common
Yeah.
for us.
Yep.
So you heard through
First from in a phone conversation with Max's uncle.
okay.
And
And what
then-
was that like? What was that conversation with Max's uncle like?
Well,
at the time.
I remember thinking, well, okay, that's probably going to be difficult. I remember thinking that. I didn't think
There
much-
was some pushback from.
Well, I wasn't detecting that so much. It's just me thinking, that's I don't. It's not something I've never felt that way. So it's not something I have personal experience with it. But it just sounds difficult.
I'm going to say this out loud because I can feel it in the room, which is just like this. There is a ongoing desire for Max to be loved and accepted by his family, and I can sense that there's nothing you would want to say that in today on this podcast subject, thinking that people would maybe listening to impede that love coming his way. So when I say to him, how was the uncle? Maybe I don't have any relationship with him. Maybe just like, I don't understand that. I don't want to, all of that. But my sense is that, I think people are still trying to deal with this under deeper understanding of what Mia transitioning to Max is and how they relate to it.
And I would like for them to do that. And we've talked about this. I like to tell people, to try to shock them a little bit, that I spent time in prison. Well, it was being in a Christian prison ministry, Kairos.
A Christian
Prison
ministry.
And
Okay.
the difference in that and being incarcerated is when I got ready to leave, they let me go, which I thought was very important.
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't want to stay in there. At any rate, one of the things they told us in the initial training I got was that we weren't supposed to ask the guys in there what they had done. Oftentimes they told us anyway. We weren't supposed to ask. And we were supposed to listen, love. And I've come to believe that's a pretty good prescription for all kinds of life circumstances. And so as I've reflected on the things with Max, that was where I was going to come from.
And Max's uncle. And all the peripheral people in their life. Listen, love.
That's what, if they would be willing to hear anything from my perspective, that would be my perspective. And
Because I wonder if Max was sitting here. I mean, because Max was sitting here. We had a conversation about it. Like, what would he say his uncle said? What would he say his grandparents said? What would he say? And how does he feel about it? And how is that different than how you've really embraced him so quickly?
Well, I'm wanting to be reserved about this,
what I'm saying.
under the notion that they may end up hearing
That's what
some
I'm
of it.
saying.
And so,
But I also don't want to, not that you're trying to sugarcoat it, Dad, but I'm just trying to tell the truth about the experience that we suffer as LGBT people. I mean, we need to tell the truth about what's happening, but I get it. I completely get it.
well, let me say it this way.
Yes, sir.
Prior to Max coming to your
Magic of listening.
Magic of Listening, which I encouraged him to do, I had a conversation with Max and his mom, Holly. And I said in that conversation, it seems that I'm the last male member standing in a way that, I'll say it this way, acceptable to me. I knew that on the other side of Max's family, his dad's side of the family, they'd never been very involved to start with. So I'm not concerned about their feelings. I'm more concerned about my side of the family. And so I basically said in that conversation, I want to be here for you. I know I'm your first cousin 3 times removed, but regardless, I want to be here for you.
And you said this to Max's mother.
And him. We were all 3 sitting.
Okay.
Well, you've been there. We were sitting in the you call it the cavernous space
of the
Hotel Blanche in
Hotel
Lake
Blanche,
City.
excuse me. I would say the Blanche Hotel, the Hotel
Hotel
Blanche.
Blanche. It's Hotel Blanche, son. Hotel Blanche.
The cavernous halls of the Hotel
We
Blanche.
were sitting in there. We'd had dinner together.
Okay.
And then I said, look, it seems like I'm the last male relative standing here. And so, I'm ready. I'll step up and do more than I would have, most likely, if my other family members, I'm just discounting his dad's side of the family, but if my family members were doing more, which I would like for them to do.
Well, Max was, my understanding, before he came to the magic of listening here at the farm, he was really angry because of the rejection, constantly fighting to be treated equal, constantly fighting to like he felt like a one-man show against standing up for the LGBT community. I mean, this guy, proud and, I mean, summa cum laude, just graduated from.
I told you about that. I mean, Joanne and I went along with Max and his sisters, and they adopted this Chinese boy, Cody, and so it was, and Holly, of course. So it was them and Joanne and me, not his grandparents, not his aunt and uncle, Joanne and me. Well, it's an honor for Joanne and me to get that opportunity to go to his graduation, and then we all go out to dinner together. And I find out, well, he graduated summa cum laude. He was working. He was tutoring, driving back and forth.
Kicking ass and wrestling with other boys.
Yeah, doing that.
We're kind of getting ahead of the story because Max was mad. Max wasn't Magic Max. Max was Mad Max, and he really was angry at the world and at family members for not accepting him. And he showed up at the Magic of Listening, and I don't think he knew what to expect. He encountered a group of grounded adults who were gay, lesbian, and also just regular heterosexual people that were loving and accepting and grounded in their lives. And his feedback was, I hadn't been around adults that weren't mad.
Well, I know the one time, because it was back in the fall that we had that dinner, or rather, we had dinner together, and then Holly and Max and I had that conversation. So things have moved along pretty quickly. But he and Joanne and I had dinner one night, and he said, well, this is really something. This couple actually seems to love each other. I don't know if he told you that or not.
Yeah, well, he did reference that at the Magic of Listening here, but also was talking about how he was witnessing that with me and Jeff, with Tim and Chris, with these other people talking about their loving relationships. And he said, I never experienced that in my life. And one of the topics that I brought, prompts I call it, in the Magic of Listening, was tell a story about your name. And in the last episode, I told a story about my name and how I went from Shawn McGuire to Shawn McGuire Meeks, and I told a similar story in the Magic of Listening, and Max was witness to that story. And so after the weekend ended, Max pulled me aside, similar to what I did to Joanne 18 years ago, and he said to me, I feel like Jack is my grandfather. Do you think I could ask him to be my grandfather? And he's very emotional about it, nervous and all that. And I felt like Joanne did that day when I enthusiastically said, I think he would love it. I absolutely think he would be honored if you would call him grandfather. Then I didn't know how that was going to unfold or if he was going to take hold of that. And, you and I had conversations, we talked about in the last episode around how I've taught you so much about the LGBT. And then you've taught me so much around being the Christian, and honorability, and so how does the relationship with me affect the relationship with Max? And I kind of, before I let you answer it, it's important, Dad, that he's trans. I know it doesn't matter to you; you love him.
Well,
for him,
it's changed the relationship though, because had he not been, there would be a more loving, accepting relationship from my family members.
It's true.
So it I guess this is another example of life closing a door and opening a window. So I wouldn't have felt, I would have been glad to have had a relationship with Mia, but I wouldn't have felt a compelling reason to step out more if he was in what I would consider a more normal, loving relationship with grandparents and aunt and uncle. I wouldn't have had that. I wouldn't have asked them to dinner that night, most likely, and I certainly wouldn't have felt the compulsion or the necessity or the context to make those remarks I did about, well, it seems like I'm the last male family member standing here. That would not have been, it wouldn't have been appropriate. It wouldn't have been something I even thought about.
Yeah, understandable. And yeah, I sit back too and I watch the relationship between the two of you unfold. And I think about myself 18 years ago and the wounds that I carried, and I see the same wounds that similar wounds that Max has. And I watch you. It's just so moving for me to watch the two of you engage. Maybe a little jealous.
We were starting earlier.
Yeah, he gets you at 19.
Well, but you're getting more. You're getting more years in total, son.
I do get more years. Well, I don't know about that. Here's hoping you live to be 120.
Well, you're still going to get more.
Well, true, true. But just to witness, it's funny, not funny, but poignant. The ripple of your mother's love to you, and that ripple to me, and then that ripple to Max in the magic of listening, to that ripple of Max to you that said and called you up that day and said, what? What did he say to you when he called you?
I don't remember exactly, and I don't remember if he called me or we just had an exchange of text, and one thing led to another, and he said, well, what would you like to be called? And I said, well, I had a buddy of mine who's called Gramps. I'd like to be called Gramps. So I had to tell my buddy, it was one of the guys I grew up with, and we, roomed together in college those last 2 years. I was in school. And so I said, well, I told Ed, I said, well, Ed, I said, imitation, the sincerest form of flattery. So I'm going to get to be called Gramps now.
I mentioned we had just gone out to dinner, the three of us, and it feels good to be a mentor to Max, and to hear him call you Gramps. And his mother said to me, last year, I told you that last year I gave Dad a package full of legal documents that I changed my name to his. So now I'm Shawn McGuire Meeks. And so when he came to the house 2025 for Christmas with Joanne, I thought, how am I going to top that?
Oh, I wasn't expecting you to.
But Max had already reached out and said, will you be my grandfather? And you said, well, you can call me Gramps. And the enthusiasm that you share around having a grandson, Max, I mean, he's not hard to love. He's pretty, he is magic Max. He's pretty amazing. It's just, it's so beautiful. And I thought, I'm going to see if I can get Max to come at Christmas Eve to Christmas Eve service with us and bring the family with them. And you were in there dressing for Christmas, and they snuck in and we're in the front room by the Christmas tree, and you came around the corner. And what was that like to see?
I was just
Max?
Stunned. Absolutely. Well, it was Max and his mom, Holly, and his two sisters, Brianna, the older of the two, and then his younger sister, Lena. Stunned.
And I don't know what I'm going to do next year to top that. But Dad, it's so great to be able to surprise you and to please you and to make you proud.
I think that may be a normal thing for them to do now.
Yeah, well, they're invited. They're absolutely invited. And I had the privilege of meeting his mother, and to witness the mother witness her son go through the trauma, and to understand the depth that Max is, the summa cum laude, the depth of his spirit. He's just everyone. I mean, Max is such a beautiful guy. He's just so thoughtful and introspective.
That's what gets me thinking again about my family. I'm putting his dad's family to the side. Is look at this person.
Yeah,
look at this person. I didn't realize really when I just said, well, I'm the last family member standing, male. I didn't realize how exceptional he really was. I mean, he's done a lot of thinking about his circumstances and how this works, and just a very thinking, thoughtful person.
He is, and his antenna is up, and he can feel what's happening in the room, and he's going to do something in this world, in this life, and the world needs him, and the world needed the ripple of love that you gave him. The world needed the ripple of love that you gave me, that I gave him in the magic of listening. I want to tell you the story that when I had the time to sit with his mother on Christmas Eve after we went to church, and she was telling me, Shawn, you have no idea how angry Max was before he came to the magic of listening. And when she said when he came home, he wasn't angry anymore. And I said, oh, I'm so glad I thank you for telling me that. That's so nice. And she grabbed my hand and she said, no, you have no idea what this man is going to do in the world. And the impact that you had, Shawn, on him so that he can do what he needs to do in the world. And I'm not taking ownership of that. I'm grateful to be part of the ripple, but the ripple of your mother's love to you and you to me and me to him, and then him back to you to say, call me Gramps. And, and then when we had dinner the other night and you sat across from him offering him accommodations for a big school, not a community college, but big school in Jacksonville that he's going to go to, and you telling him what he means to you. And listeners, I can tell you, I mean, my dad, he's got the biggest heart, and he's just, to have me as his son, he really means it. He's got a picture of his mother in his lap now, and I'm his son, and I know it. And Max is his grandson, and I know it, and he knows it, and Max knows it. And that day at dinner, when you were sitting talking to Max and telling him what he meant to you, and your lip was quivering and your eyes were filling with tears, it's so real and it's so important and it's so needed. And you're such an awesome guy, Dad. And you're an elder and a mentor to me, to Max, and you're healing generational trauma by loving him in your own family. Do you ever think about that?
Well, probably not a lot without your mentioning it, and we explore some of these things in a deeper sort of way. Because oftentimes, I'm not telling you anything you don't know after these 18 years. I deal with serious things usually
With laughter.
With laughter, and I'm not trying to trivialize them. And I think laughter and tears are real close to each other. When the tears and the laughter, tears come and laughter, they're real close to each other, I think, in terms of our emotional expressions.
Well, we could all stand to laugh a little bit more.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. And having that authentic laughter from the belly, and when the wounds then just simply become scars, not simply, but the wounds become scars, you're easier to laugh when you have a scar and not an open wound. And your love for me is, I've got a bunch of scars, but very few open wounds. And your love for Max, I'm witnessing the wounds. And my love for Max, I love that young man.
Yeah.
And to be part of his life is a privilege. And to witness the three of us together is magic. It's magic, He said, look at this circle. We were at dinner the other night. He said, look at this circle. It's a circle of love. And Max said, nope, it's a triangle of love.
It is, yeah.
And it is, and it's beautiful. And I'm privileged to be a point on that geometric, whatever.
Well, and you and Max when I went to the restroom, you and Max were talking about something about me. Anyway, I like the sounds of it. If you remember that, I forget exactly what you were talking about. I think it had something to do with my being a fairly simple guy in your way of thinking.
Well, you're simple genuinely, and I don't mean that. I mean, you're smart. I mean, my dad had a CPA firm, and he's an expert witness and did expert testimony. I mean, you're a super smart guy. But the simplicity and genuineness and authenticity of your spirit without trying, you don't try that. That's your being. And so Max and I, Dad got up to get some more food, and we were having a conversation around wanting that, that simplicity, genuinely wanting to be more like you, and just just authentic, simple, without trying, because everything else is so hard.
Well, this sort of funny story, I forget where I read this. I was reading, somebody got in a hold of some speech, Richard Nixon, you might remember, you were a little young.
I was too young.
Pretty young, but you can
Young.
read
I'm
about
still in my
it.
30s,
I guess.
Dad.
You
Still
can
in my
read about
30s.
it. When he was president, he was giving a speech, and he had notes beside, I don't know how someone got their hands on this, he had notes beside different points in the speech. And one of the notes supposedly was, at a certain point in the speech, it said, "Be sincere." Well,
Oh, goodness.
well,
Right.
well,
Right. Case in point.
Yeah.
You don't need a note.
Yeah,
That's just who you are, Dad.
if you got to think about being sincere, you ain't. That's not. It just doesn't fly. People can see through that.
Absolutely.
And
So, as a gay guy and as a trans guy, I mean, we're calling all lesbians, all bisexuals. We got a dad here. If you can cover the span, LGBT. You got the G, you got the T. Now we need a bisexual. Any bisexuals in the room? Maybe lesbians need a dad. Listen, this guy, I tell you what, he's number one. I've got this on my thing as a final question, and I don't know if it's going to be relevant, subject to how winding the conversation has been, but considering we've been in a relationship for 18 years and the impact we've had on one another's lives, and now beginning to deepen your relationship with Max, a trans man who asked you to be his Gramps. How has your definition of family evolved, and what might you say to those that hold such a rigid religious belief that are unwilling to love?
oh, such a simple question.
You're welcome.
Well, I think if at its most profound level, even though there's a lot of aspects, and Brianna was saying the other day, and maybe we talked about this, there's no love like Christian hate.
Oof. Oh, no, you didn't say that to me.
Didn't say that?
No.
That we're called, in my way of thinking, to love God with all of our heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love others as ourselves. Easily said, not always very easy, but that, in my way of thinking, that's where our default position is. That's where the meter is set, and then go from there as to how we execute that. All these other notions, I think, fall somewhere by the wayside. They're not that. Go there, go there, as opposed to delineating, and because it's easy for us to define ourselves by defining the other. I'm this way because I'm not that way.
Yeah, dualistic thinking.
And
Right,
and sadly there's a lot of that coming from some of the Christian churches. Get back to the basics. I mean, that to me ultimately is the summary of what we're supposed to do. God reaching out to us, and us reaching out, responding and reaching out to other people.
And saying yes.
And saying, and saying yes.
Saying yes.
Saying
I
yes.
love you.
Yes, yes.
I don't know if this is going to fit, but I keep hearing the story of the man on the stage in the Kairos weekend, standing up there with a microphone telling everybody what, Dad?
Oh, well, I still remember the guy's name was Leon, all these years ago, because I was active, I guess, from the mid to late 80s to the mid to late 90s, about 10 years. Any rate, he was, unlike a lot of most of these guys this was at UCI, Union Correctional Institute in Rayford, and it's a maximum security prison. Most of the guys were there for serious physical crimes. They kill somebody or something related to that. Well, he apparently, and I don't know all the story, but he apparently had some interest in a bank, and someone was trying to do something that was inimical to his bank, and he had the person killed.
Yeah.
And he said, well, I know I shouldn't have done that. I know I shouldn't have done that, but I don't really need to be here all that long. And I'm sort of thinking, well, maybe you do. Well, at the end of the weekend, there's a quote closing, and these guys they've sat at table families all during the week. So it could be the table of St. Luke or St. Mark, and there would be maybe 4, 5, 6 prisoners and a couple of free people and a minister. And at any rate, there maybe people come in for the closing, maybe 200 or 300 people in this little chapel, and these guys get up by table family and talk about what they got from the weekend and what they're taking away and all that. And so Leon gets up there, Hispanic guy, and he wasn't really all that dark, as I recall. At any rate, he said, I haven't had this many white people looking at me since I got murder one. I don't know what that has to do with this, but anyway.
That's not what I was thinking you were going to tell.
Oh, that's not the story you were looking for.
You are not
Oh, that's it. Okay.
alone.
Oh, I'll tell that story. Okay.
You are not alone. I'll just tell it with that, Dad. The guy got up in closing, and he had the microphone in his hand, and he looked at everyone, and he said, you are not alone. And thank you for not making me feel alone, Dad.
Oh,
And thank you for being there for me and privileged to witness you and Max. And, I have a closing thought.
it wasn't Leon you were looking for. Then.
Well, no, but that's kind of funny. I haven't had this many white people looking at me since
I
murder
got
one.
I've told you that before.
Of course,
okay,
100 times, Dad. No, a couple times.
Okay. I'm old, I'll repeat myself. Okay.
My closing thought is, I've written it, so I'll just read it. My closing thought is, we often think that being a good man is about following the rules, but hopefully you saw and witnessed with me that today being a good man, a God man, is about being a person who stops the ripple of rejection and starts a ripple of grace. My dad didn't just choose me and Max. He chose a way of living that is now saving the next generation, his family, and a ripple of Maddie Meeks continues to impact the world.
May it be so.
Yes, and so it is. And so I'll leave all the listeners with a micro challenge inquiry, and that is, this week, ask yourself, who have I chosen to be my family? Do I have a gap where a mentor should be? I challenge you this week to stop looking for what you lost and start looking for what's already there, waiting to be claimed, like me and like Max and my dad. It can create a ripple of love beyond our own understanding.
And expectations.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you for joining me in a special conversation with my dad at Conjuring the Human Spirit. We'll see you next week. Hey, y'all, it's Shawn coming to you from the ceremonial tent inside the newly renovated barn with all kinds of exciting things happening here. This dusty barn has been converted into a magical retreat place for you to unplug and connect. Our next workshop coming up is the magic of listening. We're going to do that 4 times a year now that we have a climate-controlled environment to offer you. And we'll do it on the solstice or the equinoxes, and that is, the next one is March 20th, 21st, and 22nd. You arrive on Friday in the afternoon. My husband cooks you an awesome meal, and then we dive in that evening, all day Saturday, half the day Sunday. And if you have the experience that most say they have here, you walk out of here changed, and you're invited. There's only 12 of you that come from across the country here to the farm, and it's an intimate setting. I think you would love it. If you're looking at how to grow, what do you want to spring forth in your life in this new season coming, then join us here at the farm, March 20th, 21st, 22nd. Check out all the details on the website, McGuireLife.com. If you have any questions, don't be shy. Reach out, send me a message. Let's talk about it. Sending you big hugs and love from me, Jeff, Rumi Plato, here at the farm.
You've been listening to Conjuring the Human Spirit with Shawn McGuire Meeks. To connect with Shawn, learn more about working one-on-one, or to grab your spot for an upcoming workshop, visit McGuireLife.com or tap the link in this episode's description. Thank you for joining us, and remember, you're not alone.